The unprecedented outbreak of COVID-19 has resulted in difficult times for millions of people across the world. Apart from those infected and their loved ones, perhaps those impacted the most are the indigenous people within our local communities. The recent turn of events has brought most local businesses to a halt. 70% of Nigerians are in the informal sector, and many families depend on their breadwinners, who are petty traders, drivers, market men and women, among other professions. The impact of the spread of COVID-19 and its inherent circumstances has been challenging for most families in Nigeria.
My name is Lafarge Africa Plc. I'm a small business owner based in Lagos, Oshodi to be precise. Since the start of the lockdown, as a result of COVID-19, my business has been shut down, which has affected me and my family greatly. With this relief material that Lafarge has given us today, it will go a long way as we hope for the best. I really want to thank Lafarge Company. I appreciate you guys for this gift. This is awesome.
As the Nigerian government works assiduously towards cushioning the effect of COVID-19 on the livelihoods of people, Lafarge Africa is supporting the government's effort through an initiative tagged Lafarge Africa Community Relief Program. In the first phase of the initiative, Lafarge Africa converted its facility to isolation centers in Ashaka and provided infrastructure support such as generators, ambulances, and critical personal protective equipment (PPE) for health professionals, reaching over 20,000 people in its host communities. More recently, in the second phase of the intervention, Lafarge Africa provided food relief materials for 10,000 families, impacting an estimated 60,000 people within its host communities.
Palliative really is to help them be able to feed their household, educate them as well on the pandemic and how to keep themselves safe, washing their hands, adhering to social distancing, and also feeding their bodies as well, because we must keep their immune system up so that they don't fall vulnerable to this pandemic.
The idea is to be impactful during the crisis. So part of what we have done, and as you can see here today, is engaging at the grassroots levels. It's incredibly important to us, and that is why you see us here. We've been across the whole nation in terms of the states in where we operate, making sure that we're actually listening to the needs, working in partnership with the federal directives in terms of precautionary measures. As you can see, our PPEs. So we're giving out testing kits, obviously bags of food, palliatives to ameliorate the hardship of the lockdown, because everyone is fully compliant, and to also make sure that we're also ensuring that we're doing our bit as a good corporate citizen.
In total, Lafarge Africa, overall Nigeria, we are spending $500 million towards these activities.
This is our response to the pandemic we are in, the COVID-19. Unfortunately, the world has found itself in this situation, and not just the world, Nigeria and Gambia and Punata local government in particular are affected by this scourge. So we sat down as a group of people to say, what are we going to do to really reduce the impact of this COVID-19 within our communities. And we came out with the idea of distributing this palliative care vaccine around.
We are actually a caring and a health and safety conscious organization. And so in line with our objectives, we have decided to provide palliatives to citizens.
To reach out to them with food items and basic personal groceries that will help them maintain personal hygiene like soap and sanitizers. We've worked with the local government councils and the LCDAs to ensure that these relief materials get to the grassroots, the people who actually need them.
I must say thank you to Lafarge Africa for what they're doing. They're complementing the efforts of the state government in giving palliatives to our people in this very difficult period.
Lafarge, a willing partner to Cross River State Government, has once again stepped up to the plate and is providing these measures to enable the community sit out this pandemic period and so that we can emerge stronger and better.
I must mention that it's a great idea and highly welcome here in Alimosho local government.
I want to extend my greeting, my appreciation to Lafarge Cement for such a succor that they brought to my people.
It's a great relief to us. Nobody has done this for us. No company has done this for us. So Lafarge has scored another first. So we are grateful.
Lafarge, ilé-iṣẹ́ Lafarge, kọ́lọ́ máa jẹ́ ó bàjẹ́.
The food relief program also provided an opportunity for Lafarge Africa's employee volunteers, friends of the community, to further educate the locals about COVID-19 and the best ways to protect against the spread of the virus.
Ẹjọ́ kò le. Ọmọ tó bá pè ní kó fẹ́ wá kí yín, kó pè ní lórí aago yín, kó kí yín, ẹ juwọ́ sí.
A dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ torí tí ebi bá ti kúrò nínú ìṣẹ́ ti kù fẹ́rẹ́fẹ́.
Ọwọ́ wọn á máa gòkè sí, ọwọ́ wọn á máa ròkè. Lafarge Cement, ọwọ́ wọn á máa ròkè, àpò wọn ò ní gbẹ o.
I'm very happy for the food relief. I thank the company, the Lafarge, for remembering people like us.
Kan tí mo ní sọ ní pé Ọlọ́run á máa ràn wọ́n lọ́wọ́, Ọlọ́run á máa bùkún wọn, Ọlọ́run á máa gbọ́ wọn sókè pẹ̀lú ògo Ọlọ́run, ilé-iṣẹ́ wọn ò dẹ̀ ní jóná pẹ̀lú ògo Ọlọ́run.
The impact on what Lafarge has done today is great.
So we appreciate it and thank you for this move.
As the fight against the spread of COVID-19 continues, everyone, every organization and individual has a role to play. In times such as this, simple acts of kindness will go a long way in making a difference. While we may not all have the resources to give to others, we can support the fight against COVID-19 by simply adhering to the health and safety standards recommended by the World Health Organization and Nigerian Center for Disease Control.
While most of us are at home trying to keep the social distancing, we should not forget our heroes at the front line, trying to save all of our lives. Big clap to all of them.
Our appreciation for our medical heroes for all the great work done.
Thank you, our heroes. Thank you.
starts with you. Together, we can beat this.
COVID-19 is an infectious disease caused by a new coronavirus introduced to humans for the first time. It is spread from person to person, mainly through the droplets produced when an infected person speaks, coughs, or sneezes. These droplets can land in the mouths or noses of people who are nearby. These droplets are too heavy to travel far in the air. They only travel approximately 1 meter and quickly settle on surfaces. This is the reason person-to-person spread is happening mainly between close contacts. The exact time that the virus can survive on surfaces is not yet known. So it is wise to clean surfaces regularly, particularly in the vicinity of people infected with COVID-19. Hands touch many surfaces, which can be contaminated with the virus. You should therefore avoid touching your eyes, nose, or mouth, since contaminated hands can transfer the virus from the surface to yourself. When coughing or sneezing, cover your mouth and nose with the bend of your elbow or use a disposable tissue. If a tissue is used, discard it immediately into a closed bin. The most effective way to prevent the spread of the new coronavirus is to clean your hands frequently with an alcohol-based hand rub or soap and water. This will eliminate the virus if it is on your hands. Stay healthy and prevent the spread of COVID-19.
There are a lot of false information about the coronavirus. These are the facts. People of all ages can be affected by the coronavirus. However, older people and people with pre-existing medical conditions such as asthma, diabetes, heart diseases are more vulnerable to the disease. It is not for old people alone. Gargling salt and warm water or chewing garlic and ginger cannot prevent the virus. Drinking alcohol, hot lemon, palm oil or chloroquine will not kill the virus. The virus cannot be transmitted through mosquito bites. Antibiotics do not work against the viruses. Antibiotics work only against bacteria. Boiling pineapple peels, lime and ginger does not kill the virus. Putting raw onions in rooms will not ward off the virus. Using or spraying Dettol, special oils and water all over your body cannot kill the virus. There is no scientific evidence that cooking, drinking, or eating any of these is an effective treatment for coronavirus. Do not self-medicate and take responsibility by sharing only verified messages from health authorities such as NCDC, Federal Ministry of Health, and WHO.
fellow shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, it is with pleasure that I welcome you to this 61st Annual General Meeting of our company, Lafarge Africa Plc. Let me start by calling on one of our shareholders to offer us an opening prayer this morning. Stagbengaido.
In Jesus' name. Our Father and our God, we thank you for a day you have made, and we are rejoicing in it. We thank you for the life of Lafarge Africa Plc. We thank you for the life of the board, management, and staff of this company. We thank you for keeping us safe. Hitherto, we are grateful. Father, this meeting, we know it's going to be a meeting to discuss both the past, present, and the future. Give the wisdom to come into our midst that can be useful for our further growth in this company. We ask you for the growth of this company after the pandemic, and then what we need to do, our products, how it's going to be acceptable more and more, and the wisdom, the thinking to make that product cost effective and to be for good pricing of Nigeria. That the whole breadth, this company is no more a regional company. It has spread all over the country and even the globe. Let our thinking actually match our expansion in the name of Jesus. Thank you, our Father. In Jesus' name we pray.
I feel somewhat like the words to describe our current collective situation have been somewhat used up during the last couple of months. And so I will simply start this morning with a sincere wish that this finds you as well as possible, and that you and all of your families are staying safe and keeping well. I want to thank everyone in attendance in person and virtually through YouTube for being present at today's meeting, notwithstanding the current pandemic. I also wish to thank our regulators for the proactive guidelines and flexibility provided to us to ensure that the annual general meeting is conducted by proxy. In view of the pandemic, the directives to minimize social contacts by restricting the number of persons at public gatherings, and in accordance with the Corporate Affairs Commission's guidelines on the holding of annual general meetings of public companies, pursuant to sections of the Companies and Allied Matters Act using proxies, this annual general meeting is being held today by proxy pursuant to the approval of the Corporate Affairs Commission. This meeting is being streamed live to shareholders, regulators, and those who are not physically present in the room. As already announced, I had notified the board of my intention to retire as chairman and step down as a member of the board of directors after this annual general meeting. In all, I've been privileged to serve on the board of our company for over 15 years, having joined the board in March 2005. I served for the first 10 years as a non-executive director, and since May 2015, I've had the privilege of being your chairman. Having overseen the progress in our objectives, I feel completely fulfilled retiring as chairman, knowing that the board and our company is in very, very good shape. I'm pleased to announce that Prince Adebode Adefioye, who joined the board in November of 2012, has been appointed to succeed me as chairman from after the end of this annual general meeting. He's been an active member of the board and understands the heritage and culture of Lafarge Africa. I ask all of our shareholders and stakeholders to give him your support, and please remember him in your prayers. I will now call on our registrars, Cardinal Stone, registrars, to provide us with a report of the proxy forms received before we proceed.
Good morning, Chairman. Good morning, Directors of Lafarge Africa Plc. Good morning, distinguished shareholders. For this annual general meeting, we received 248 proxies for a total number of shares of 14,594,780,080, representing 90.61% of total share capital of Lafarge Africa Plc. And most of the proxies received nominated the chairman, Mr. Mobolaji Balogun, the managing director, Mr. Khalid Odokani, and the company secretary, Mrs. Adewumi Alode, to represent them as their proxy at this event. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you so much. I've been informed by our company secretary that we have a quorum for this meeting in accordance with Article 59 of the company's Articles of Association. I therefore now declare the meeting open. May I now call on the safety manager of Eco Hotel to give us a safety brief.
Thank you. Good morning, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. I welcome you all to Eco Hotel and Suites. My name is Ganiyu Taiwan. Like I rightly said, I'm here to briefly tell you a few things about our safety and security arrangement. First and foremost, please note this room is known as the Lavender Hall. And in order to ensure safety of lives and property, the room is fortified with a lot of safety gadgets, including fire alarm system. In case of fire alarm or fire disaster, the fire alarm system will ring. And if it rings continuously, we believe the emergency is free. And we expect everybody to evacuate this room immediately. This is the only emergency exit that leads in and out of the room, and the nearest assembly point is at the front of Eco Signature building. We are outside there, and we shall direct you in case it happens like that. More so, we have the restroom very close. If there is any need for you to use the restroom, we are outside there. We shall assist you. Likewise, in line with the standard operating procedure of the management of COVID-19 pandemic, we have hand sanitizers everywhere around the hotel, especially at the entrance of the hall outside there. Also, entrance of each of the restroom for both the ladies and gentlemen. In case you are having any difficulty, please talk to us. We shall assist you. And also, if there is any complaint, anything that you feel that you are not satisfied with, please talk to us. We are on ground, and we shall address that immediately. Once again, I welcome you, and I wish you a very splendid day. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In line with the notice of the meeting and our 2019 annual reports and accounts, already in your possession, we have the business of the meeting set out thereon. Shareholders will be asked to consider each item on the agenda, and you'll have the opportunity to second each motion put to the meeting. There will then be an opportunity for questions on the motions before votes are taken. I would therefore request that those seconding motions or asking questions should speak clearly into the microphone placed at the center of the meeting room, and please commence by stating your name. Before proceeding with the formal business of the meeting, permit me to briefly introduce my members, my colleagues and members of the board of directors of your company who are physically present in the room, as well as all of those who have joined us virtually for this meeting. To my immediate right, I'm delighted to welcome to his first annual general meeting our new Managing Director and Country Chief Executive Officer, Mr. Khaled El-Dokani. I'm equally delighted to welcome to his first annual general meeting as a member of the board, our finance director, Mr. Lolu Alade Akinyemi. My own name is Mobolaji Balogun. We have other directors virtually present. Thank you very much.
What are you?
And I'm honored to be your chairman. We have other directors who are virtually present this morning, namely Prince Adebode Adefioye, Mrs. Elenda Giwamu, Mrs. Adenike Ogunlesi, Mr. Grant Earnshaw, Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy, Mr. Marco Likata. Delighted to welcome to our board Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, MFR, and also welcome new member of the board, Mr. Olivier Guiton. I should also introduce a member who will be joining the board from after this annual general meeting. Mrs. Onyinkon Adewale was appointed to the board, was recommended to the board by our Nominations and Remuneration Committee and appointed at our pre-AGM board yesterday night. To my immediate left is our Company Secretary and General Counsel, Mrs. Adewumi Alode. The profiles of all of your directors are contained on pages 20 to 22 of the annual report. I will now introduce the representative of our company's registrars, Mr. Ayola Adeola. We're delighted to have the SEC on the joining the meeting virtually, as well as the Corporate Affairs Commission. But I'm particularly delighted to have in the room the representative of the Nigerian Stock Exchange, Mr. Godstein Iwenekai. We have the representative of our external auditors, Messrs. KPMG, Mrs. Toyin Bagi, who's our audit partner. I'm also pleased to welcome the Audit Committee Chair and representative of the shareholders on our Audit Committee, Mr. Adebayo Adeleke. We have a number of shareholders in the room, and I can see precisely 4 or 5 shareholders. But I'm delighted also to acknowledge that we have one institutional shareholder present, as well as individual investors as well. And welcome the representative of Stanbic Nominees. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I now call on our company secretary to read the notice of our meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to seek the indulgence of the shareholders present and every other person to just read the agenda for the notice of this meeting. Notice is hereby given that the 61st Annual General Meeting of Lafarge Africa Plc will hold at Lavender Room, Eco Hotel and Suites, plot 1415 Ademola Street, Victoria Island, Lagos, on Wednesday, 3rd June 2020 at 10 a.m. to transact the following business. Ordinary business, to consider and if thought fit, to transact the following ordinary business which will be proposed as ordinary resolutions. 1. To lay the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2019, together with the report of the directors, external auditors, and audit committee thereon. 2. To declare a dividend recommended by the board of directors of the company in respect of the financial year ended 31st December 2019. 3. To approve the appointment of the following directors: Mr. Marco Likata as non-executive director, Mr. Khalid El Dokani as executive director, Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, MFR, as independent non-executive director, Mr. Olivier Guiton as non-executive director, and Mr. Lolu Alade Akinyemi as executive director. 4, to re-elect the following non-executive directors who, being eligible, now offer themselves for re-election: Mr. Grant Enshaw and Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy. 5, to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors. 6, to elect members of the audit committee. 7, other acts. The directors of the company be and are hereby authorized to approve, sign, and/or execute other documents as may be necessary to give effect to the above resolutions, including without limitation, complying with the directives of any regulatory authority and all acts carried out, steps taken, and documents executed or to be executed by the directors of the company in connection with the above resolution, be and are hereby approved and or ratified as the case may be to give effect to these resolutions, and where applicable to file and or register same with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Thank you. By order of the board.
Thank you, Company Secretary. Should I read my statement, or do I have your mandate to take it as read? Thank you very, very much. I believe that you're all in favor that we take it as read. I will now move on. May I call on the representative of our external auditors to read the auditor's report, and thereafter the chairman of our audit committee will present the report of the audit committee.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, distinguished shareholders. Our auditor's report is actually on page 42 of the annual reports and accounts, and I read: to the shareholders of Lafarge Africa Plc, report on the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements. Opinion: we have audited the consolidated and separate financial statements of Lafarge Africa Plc, the company, and its subsidiaries, together the group, which comprise the consolidated and separate statements of financial position as at 31st December 2019, and the consolidated and separate statements of profit or loss and other comprehensive income, consolidated and separate statements of changes in equity, and consolidated and separate statements of cash flows for the year then ended, and the notes comprising significant accounting policies and other explanatory information as set out on pages 47 to 116. In our opinion, the accompanying consolidated and separate financial statements give a true and fair view of the consolidated and separate financial position of the company and its subsidiaries as at 31st December 2019, and of its consolidated and separate financial performance and its consolidated and separate cash flows for the year then ended, in accordance with International Financial Reporting Standards, IFRS, and in the manner required by the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Cap C20, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, 2004, and the Financial Reporting Council of Nigerian Act, 2011. Basis for opinion: we conducted our audits in accordance with International Standards on Auditing, ISAs. Our responsibilities under those standards are further described in the auditor's responsibilities for the audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements section of our reports. We are independent of the group and company in accordance with International Ethics Standards Board for Accountants Code of Ethics for Professional Accountants, the ISBA Code, together with the ethical requirements that are relevant to our audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements in Nigeria. And we have fulfilled our other ethical responsibilities in accordance with this requirement and the ISBA Code. We believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Key audit matters. Key audit matters are those matters that, in our professional judgment, were of most significance in our audit of the consolidated and separate financial statements of the current period. These matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the financial statements as a whole, and informing our opinion thereon, and we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters. There were 3 audit matters we had highlighted in the audit report, as stated on pages 43 and 44. These 3 key audit matters are other assets in relation to the prepaid gas assets. The second is the recognition and recoverability of deferred tax assets. And the third is the determination of gain on disposal of discontinued operation in the consolidated financial statements. These matters have been further enumerated, and how the matters were addressed is further highlighted in our opinion. With your permission, Mr. Chair and distinguished shareholders, I would like to proceed to page 46 of the annual report to take our last report on the other legal and regulatory requirements. Thank you, sir. Report on other legal and regulatory requirements. Compliance with the requirements of Schedule 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Cap C20, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004. In our opinion, proper books of accounts have been kept by the company so far as appears from our examination of those books, and the company's statement of financial position and statement of profit or loss and other comprehensive income are in agreement with the books of accounts. Signed, Oluwatoyin Gbagi, on behalf of KPMG Professional Services, dated 3rd April 2020 in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Madam Auditor. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, the board, and our distinguished shareholders. I stand to read the report of the Audit Committee, which is on page 40 of the annual report and account. In accordance with Section 359, subsection 6 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, Cap C20, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, we, the members of the Audit Committee, have reviewed and considered the auditor's report required to be made in accordance with Section 359, subsection 3 of CAMA, and report as follows. 1, we have reviewed the scope and planning of the audit requirements. 2, we have reviewed the external auditor's management letter for the year ended, together with management's responses. 3, we also ascertained that the accounting and reporting policies of the company for the year ended 31st December 2019 were in accordance with legal requirements and agreed ethical practices. In our opinion, the scope and planning of the audit for the year ended 31st December 2019 were adequate, and management's responses to the auditor's findings were satisfactory. Signed by me on the 27th of March 2020, and other members who served on the committee for that period are listed as Mr. David Adekombi, representing the shareholders, Mr. Timothy Adejuwon, representing the shareholders, and representing the board, Mrs. Elinda Giwamu, Mrs. Karen Uzamase, and Mr. Mako Likata. Thank you very much, Chairman. Thank you, Audit Committee Chair. In accordance with Section 224, subsection 1, subsection A of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, and pursuant to Articles 64 and 65 of the Articles of Association of our company, I hereby direct that a poll on the motions before the meeting be taken forthwith by the use of poll voting devices. And I further direct that our auditors, Messrs. KPMG, shall act as scrutineers. All items on the agenda, excluding item number 6 regarding the election of members to the Statutory Audit Committee, shall be by poll. To facilitate smooth conduct of the business of the day, I will move each motion and invite someone to second each motion from the floor. You're kindly requested to clearly state your name to enable the Company Secretary take note. Mr. Registrar, will you provide us an update and display of the proxies received for the purposes of the meeting?
Thank you, Chairman. We received 248 proxies for the 61st Annual General Meeting of Lafarge Africa Plc for a total number of units of shares of 14,594,780,080 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc, representing 90.61% of total share capital of the company. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Can I go ahead to
yes,
describe how to use the voting pad? I believe we all have our voting pad devices with us. For the voting process, we're only going to work with the first three numbers, numbers 1, 2, and 3. If you're voting in favor of a resolution, you press number 1. If you're voting against the resolution, you press number 2. If you're abstaining from a resolution, you select number 3. Once you select your voting pattern, please remember to press the OK button to send your vote in. For every vote you select, you are required to press in the OK button on the voting pad to press your vote in. Please note, you can change your mind. The system only recognizes the last selected voting pattern. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. The audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2019, together with the Director's report and the report of the auditors and the Audit Committee, have been circulated to all shareholders as required by law. I hereby lay the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2019, the reports of the directors and the auditors and the Audit Committee thereon before this meeting. Shareholders now have an opportunity to ask questions relating to the reports and accounts. In doing so, however, it would help to ensure that we give the right answers if you could refer to the page of the annual report and accounts to which your question relates. Please note that all questions will be taken together and answers provided later.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Board of Directors, regulatory authorities here present, my co-shareholders, good morning. My name is Mrs. Bisi Bakari, the National Coordinator of Pragmatic Shareholders Association of Nigeria. Mr. Chairman, firstly, I want to really thank God on your behalf that Lafarge Africa returned back to profitability before your exit. I thank God that Nigerian shareholders is leading the board of Lafarge Africa as the chairman when we return back to profitability. Not only that, we are paying dividend. I really thank God and I congratulate you for that. Secondly, having said that, I want to use this opportunity also to really commend our the office of the company secretary. They really work tirelessly. Honestly, they really try. Out of all the COVID AGM we have been attending, I've not seen any company secretary or the staff of secretariats working the way Lafarge Africa Company Secretary worked before this meeting, in making sure that today's meeting is a success. I really thank them for that, and I hope they will keep it up. Having said that, I will go straight to page 23, note 4, where we have summary group financial result for 2019. Looking at this page, this year's result is an impressive result compared to our previous year. Despite that, our revenue for 2019 declined by 2% from 217.8 billion to 212.9 billion. Our profit before minimum tax grew by 1,285%. Our profit before from negative position, it grew by 1,285% from negative position of 1.5 billion to positive position of 17.9 billion. This is very good. Also, our profit after tax also grew by 92% from 8.1 billion to 15.5 billion. Our retained earnings also grew by 13%. In fact, this year's result is an encouraging result, and I hope that the management will keep it up. Page 43. Under key audit matter. Concerning the issue raised by the external auditors on key audit matters on page 43, as regards the huge amount coming out from unused gas, that is a prepaid gas assets, based on the monthly gas supply contract. My question on this is, what significant steps are we taking or have been taking to address this matter, going by the candid opinion made by the auditor on estimation, uncertainty, and judgment applied in its recovery? Secondly, I will also want to know how we are addressing the two issues mentioned by the external auditors on the VAT tax, recognition and recovery, and gain determination on disposal of Lafarge South Africa holdings as it relates to the significant amount involved and unusual nature of the transaction. Thirdly, Mr. Chairman, investment in Nashaka Cement is indeed yielding fruit, as seen on page 79, note 10.4, with a dividend yield of 7.9 billion as against 2018 that was nil. My question is, what measures do we have in place to sustain this and even have more such post-COVID-19 amidst the interest in the north, that is banditry, kidnapping, and so on? Again, I want to ask from this board that what impact does COVID-19 pandemic has on Lafarge Africa as a company? Page 70, trade receivables. Group 3, we have 3 groups there under the trade receivables there. Existing customer with default 267.6 million. My question is, what is the management doing to get the amount back? Though the total amount has reduced from 12.7 billion to just 780.4 million. But what step is the management taking in making sure that we get the 267.6 million back? That is on group 3. Page 77, where we have selling and marketing expenses. Under that, we have campaign and innovation expenses. I don't know, Mr. Chairman, I need explanation on that, under campaign and innovation expenses. For 2018, we have 2.25 million, but this current year, we're having a 171.26 million. I need explanation why the huge difference from last year. Page 78, administrative expenses. Looking at this, we are not doing bad. All the expenses has reduced. Director's costs reduced by 79.8% from 176 million to 35.5 million. This is very good. I don't know how you are able to do that. The same thing with AGM costs, also reduced from 105.6 million to 93.5 million. This is also good. Insurance, okay, the CFO has explained that one to me because I was surprised that our insurance reduced by 98% from 331 million to 6.75 million. That is also very good. Other supplies and spare parts also reduced from 1 billion to 156.9 million. The same thing to rent and so on. This is very good, and I hope the management will continue with that trend. Page 106, note 35.1.6. I see something there that is not clear to me. I need clarification for that also. Long service award, then another one, employee long service award. I don't know. I need clarification. What is the difference between the two? Why do we separate the two, long service award and employee long service award? Lastly, Mr. Chairman, our company still need to work on the availability of our cement. We need to work on that. I'm from Ogun State, and hardly we get our cement. I live at Ijoko, and I don't want to mention any cement company name here, but the way we see that company's trailers, I expect is the Lafarge Cement, Lafarge Africa, that we're supposed to be seeing their vehicles the way we are seeing that one, because you are very close to us. So I want the board and management to really work on that availability of our cement. Once again, thank you for the opportunity given to me.
Thank you very much, Bisi.
I want to stand on the existing protocol established. My name is Benga Idowu, National Coordinator, Shareholders United Front. Also, I double as Managing Director of Center for Shareholders Enlightenment, Limited by Guarantee. I want to thank the chairman. The reason why I'm doing that is that it takes quite a lot of skill and acumen when you want to turn a large ship in the ocean. It's not a mean job. First, bringing us to the point of dividend at this AGM. When you are parting a foundation, when you just buy a land, and that land is already stony or good, but when you go and buy a swampy one, before you bring it to the level to start bidding, so the ₦1 we are receiving is not actually the work that has been done. We appreciate it. It's a very good, and also not only the fact that we are seeing you here, you are actually a pride to Nigeria when it comes to financials. And I'm not talking this because I just been invited to this meeting, but when you have privilege of coming close to hear what it takes to make him, you will appreciate what I've said. I will start first by what is not listed on the notice of the annual general meeting. That's on page 1. When you look at page 122, it's not there, but it's very, very germane. And that is the corporate headquarters or head office of our company. I was coming from an emotional angle before, thinking that this is a regional company that we have lord over it from the southwest. But now, when you look at Ashaka, you look at Mfosi in southeast or south and whatever, I think my thinking in that regard has changed. Instead of localizing the head office or whatever, why don't we look at the national to consider it? Because it's a national company. It's no more a regional and even international. So we should know what exactly the present CEO is thinking. He's thought about this. We should have it, and the earlier the better, so that we cannot know how to hold him responsible as we go forward. But it's normal, it doesn't do any credit to us. Having one little office somewhere in Lagos, no. That is not what we are known for. So the earlier we go back to the better. This one too is not part of what is listed. I have the privilege of meeting the last CEO when he first came, and I engaged him. When I engaged him, his marketing strategy was wrong. And I keep on asking, you cannot. This is people-to-people business. You cannot come and be carrying one lorry load around my house. For what? I want to talk to Mr. So and so. You want to talk to, this is my fear, this is my this. So I hope the CEO too will not have, I think we'll learn from that experience. The marketing strategy needs to change to be able to know how to reach out to people. I think it will help us. Now I want to go into I thank the last speaker. He has dealt with some of the financials. I may not likely go via that route. But I want to look at page 4 in conjunction with page 8. Now, in terms of that area, it's talking to us about what we are likely to expect from the CEO. Sorry, if I'm taking the CEO, I'm sorry. It's not because I've just met him today. So not that because we were sharing one girlfriend or another. No, I've never met him before. But the question is that you take bull by the horn. First, what Nigeria is looking forward to is cement company. We are looking at production, then we want to look at pricing. It's too much expensive. The way and it's impacting on the construction of building and all whatnot. So how do we engender that we produce more and then the prices too will reflect what we are selling? So in terms of quality, no problem. Our products, they are very good. They can stand the test of time. But even if we have the best product, if the money is too much, then I will look for the alternative. So I think these are the area we need to look at when we were looking at that one. Now that page 4 and page 8 will help us in that regard. Now looking in terms of, I'm looking at page 13. And on this page, actually I've already talked about it. The chairman, it's not easy. Some of the decision taking to be reversed, which actually help us to have dividend now. It's an investment in South Africa. If you are not reversed that, you will still be wallowing in the mud. I think it takes a lot of statesmanship, administrative skill, and financial skill. And Chairman, I commend you for this. And I'm happy that you are able to see it before you go as a statesmanship. That was very commendable. I want to look in terms of this present board, as presently conceived here, when you look at page 17, it's a very lean structured board. Unlike before, then when we need a stadium to be able to parade all our directors. I think what are the efforts that we do to keep this lean structure is likely to help us. You need thinking men, not in terms of the size, but the size of what is in their brain. That's what the board needs. So I think it will help us. We can deal with all this. So, and I'm going to welcome Mr. Lulu Akiyemi to the podium. You are welcome. But let's see your impact in terms of the financials, so that we have nothing to do with 1 naira anymore. We should be talking 10 naira, so many that you give us a dividend. Now, the 1 naira is not doing justice to us. Please, what is likely to be the board policy, dividend policy, going from here? Because I know we should. The size of the investment, then the return too should justify it. So we are not likely to be coming and be celebrate. I will celebrate you today for the 1 naira, because I know it's a lot of effort. But I won't clap for you next year if you bring 1 naira. So, and I'm praying that lockdown will not affect you, because the size of your thinking will take out of lockdown or no lockdown. I wish you well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ido. Sir Sonny Osu.
Mr. Chairman of the Board of Lafarge Africa Plc, distinguished directors and very distinguished shareholders, good morning. I stand on the existing protocol by congratulating you after 15 years, 10 years as non-executive director, 5 years as the chairman. You are bowing out, and you are bowing out healthier than you got there. So that's an achievement, because some people will bow out when they have a lot of health challenges, but that's not the case with you. It also means that you'll be more useful to the company as a former chairman and still a shareholder. So I congratulate you for that. In welcoming Khalil and Lulu, we were clamoring for an indigenous executive director, finance, or CFO. We're happy we got it. We're not contesting that of managing director, but if it happens because of competence, there's nothing wrong about it. What is more important is for Holcim Group to earn as much dividend as possible from Nigeria operation and pay our loyalty. That's the most important thing. But in welcoming Mr. Khalil, I want to take you a little bit back memory lane. When Michael came, we reeled out a lot of values to him, especially on sales and marketing department, the way we should manage the marketing and sales department of the company. Very importantly, we told him about acquiring vehicles that can go into nooks and crannies of Nigeria to deliver cement. That an ordinary builder wants material at site as quickly as possible. When you continue to use some of these rickety vehicles that will pack up midway to their destination, that one is not giving us the right publicity, two is depriving us of sales. He agreed. We had a section, and the chairman was there. So, but up till now, I have not seen much improvement in that area. But unfortunately, and for him, he knows why. The competitor that we were condemning at that time is where he now went to work as the chief executive, making it like a political landscape where they swallow their vomit anytime. So I am very worried at the time. I thought Lafarge was going to sell its entity, everything about, to the competitor. Because if you look at what happened there, we had to congratulate the company secretary for having the conscience to remain, because everybody was moving out from Lafarge. But thank God, again, looking back to the last AGM was very hot, that the chairman and everybody was accused of being insensitive to the plight of shareholders. But he carried on because he did promise that he's going to do his best. We are aware that the technical partners and some directors on the board was not giving him the right environment to work. But for him to have managed to return back to profitability, to pay 1 naira, even though it's still very small when you talk about the expectation of shareholders, haven't had right issues continuously just like that and offer, shareholders had a very strong hope in Lafarge that Lafarge will be paying above 5 naira anytime they are declaring dividend. But yet, we need to congratulate the chairman that he fulfilled that. And I'm sure that he saw the opportunity to leave, having fulfilled his promise. So I wish God guidance on you anywhere and all your endeavors. So also to the new board. Now, I didn't want to go too far into discussion, but I am tempted to go into some areas. One, the chairman did not deliver to us a new headquarters of Lafarge, despite the fact that we were able to sell the former headquarters, which created a lot of problems between the shareholders and the board, because we were against it. We were seriously against it. But we were convinced by the board headed by Bolaji that we got a good offer from it, and therefore we should do away, and with a promise that that 3 billion or thereabout raised from that building will be used to erect a befitting headquarters for Lafarge Africa. That we have not seen. And I hope that the chairman, the outgoing chairman, will say something. But my joy, again, is that the incoming chairman has been part of the system. So it is like soldier go, soldier come, barrack remains. So you must do something about that. The second one is Ashaka. I recall that some of us, risk our lives on Ashaka. And I'm sure the chairman knows this. The way we were sent on errand to go and convince our northern brothers about Ashaka. I went to Ashaka 4 times, despite the danger of the environment, to talk to them. And at a stage, we had some of their leaders on the board. Eventually, they left. Now, the report here, I just spoke with the chairman of the audit committee about it. He's saying it is receivable from impairment. It doesn't show that Ashaka is in operation to the level that we expect that it will get to by now. It doesn't show. Even at the time that we were told that coal was discovered in Gobe to assist Ashaka Cement, we were very happy. But there must be a categorical statement about Ashaka. That's very, very important, because as soon as we finish this meeting, some of them are actually watching the meeting, the proceedings of the meeting. So it is very, very important that a statement be made on Ashaka. Now, if we go to note 9.4 on page 78 of this annual report, it's talking about technical service fee. Technical service fee. Mr. Chairman, I want a clarity on this. You say a situation where we'll be paying 5%, whether it is net or it is on turnover, does not really help Nigerian investors. There is an aspect there that is talking about also 2%. So we need to clarify this, the group and the company, so that we know. The fact remains that the company itself is just a normal regulatory accounting system. What we are working on here is the group. So whatever profit we are earning is for the group here. And it's very, very important for us to really understand what has happened in that. Now, I also want us to look at that note 10.4, which says right back of impairment of other receivable investment income. So what are these? And that relates to Ashaka anyway, because it's the same thing that translated to this other one, which is 10.41. Then I want us to also look at the board. I think Benga tried to say something about that. Let us look at the board, the structure of the board itself, whether it is well spread geographically. Now, I recall the letter of Colonel Omar to Buhari just recently. I recall that letter. We must do everything to ensure that those are our clients, customers, catchment area, that we also give them a sense of belonging. And that's one thing with our competitor. If you look at the spread of our competitor, you will agree with me that everybody wants that product because, oh, somebody from my catchment area is involved in the decision-making at the board of such company. So we should not, this company has gone more than narrowing ourselves to only some particular areas of the country. That's very, very important. I want to also take us back to, and this concerns Lulu, and that's on page 130, that has to do with unclaimed dividend reports. Now, here it's saying unclaimed amount, 1,392,000,000 plus the small naira there, which also makes a lot of sense to us if it's given to any of us. Then returned amount is 1,425.37 and 0.867. I need this to be properly defined. So if return money is more than the unclaimed dividend, I want that to be properly placed so that we can understand. Okay, look at this. It's saying refund money is 161 million. Cash balance, 127 million. The question is that, how much is the unclaimed dividend? And how much of this will become status part? That will also help us. When I looked through this, I thought very much whether the company secretary wanted to use some of these pages to print out the unclaimed dividend or the names of the shareholders that are yet to claim their dividend. It is very important for us to do that. Just day before yesterday, I got an annual report that pages were allocated to unclaimed dividend. But also, it may be that the level of our own shareholding may be more than that, and we make this too heavy to actually work on. But it's very important that we should use every means to advertise the unclaimed dividend issue so that people can claim their money. Now that dividend is our own palliative, so it should not be held back for whatever reasons. Do your best and leave the rest to the shareholders. At the end of 12 years, whatever is left unclaimed will be returned back to the company. So I think a lot of things have been done which have been handed over to Lulu there. These are just an additional things that I looked into. I want to congratulate you. Congratulate the new managing director, which is coming from Iraq. Yes, and I believe that Iraq has a lot of construction to do. So, and I believe the experience of Iraq will be brought here, but not war, but friendliness. So I also appreciate my daughter Adeumi and her team for the good job they have done. Thank you very much for paying the dividend today. I hope the palliative will get to us today. Thank you. God bless every shareholder of Lafarge Africa and the board, outgoing board members and the new incoming board members. God bless all of us.
Thank you, Sir. No, now. The chairman, other members of the board, both physical and spiritual, because there are two classes now. I want to start on the note of the outgoing chairman. When I read the chairman's statement, and I saw the long list of names that you mentioned, and I said, if this chairman had not gone to read finance, he probably would have been into music. And his music would have been one in which he would have probably played more of juju, and he would have praised so many persons, and he would have made probably more money than he has made in. Because I'm sure they will spray you by the time you begin to praise them and call their names. And, but talking seriously to this account, I think there are, first, I will not want to talk to the financials largely. And the reason that I will not talk to the financials is that anybody who is doing that probably has not realized that we only had 7 months of the operations of the South Africa's business in this account. And so if you are comparing, you probably will not be getting, you probably will not be speaking to facts really, because except you have the other 5 months, you would not have a good grasp as to what has happened in 2019 for you to be able to compare adequately with what has happened in 2018. So I will not go that route, so that I also don't be classified as not being financially literate. However, I think that there are areas that we need to take a general look at for us to be able to make progress. The reason I decided not to go that route is that if you look at page 119 and 120, you will find the subsidiary making a loss of 7.2 billion. The subsidiary did post a loss. But if you then relate that to what you have on page 89, talking about the 7 months of South Africa, you'll find that that business in 7 months had done a loss of 9.5 billion already. So I'm just saying this so that you also understand the challenge that I had in. However, I think there is need for a more defined position on our receivables. We produce cement and we sell cement and aggregate. And if we sell and we have this size of receivables, it becomes a challenge. We can as well then produce and give them out for free, rather than say we've sold and then we have this size of receivables. So I will want, this has been a recurring challenge really. So I want some clarification as to what we're doing going forward relating to receivables. I also did find on page 79 that we have scraps of over 2 billion. And I'm wondering how come that we have scraps to that size? Is there any plant that we have cannibalized and then we sold the things that we have there as scraps? I must also put on record that what I find on page 115 and 116 that has to do with breakdowns of directors' benefit is something that we need to encourage. Because very many times we also find people come to AGM and say, oh, director's fee is too small. But by the time you add other incentives, you may find that they are not as small as a number of us usually will think. Now that you have joined our competitor, who is also been reporting in this line, is something that we'll be encouraging you to maintain so we can also have a better picture as to how we reward persons who have decided to work for us. But in one instance, I'm not too certain as to why we needed to pay other benefits to the foreign directors on our board. That was in 2018. Why was it necessary? Because if I read and I understand the technical agreement well, I don't think that should be the case. So I'll be hoping that some clarification will also be made in that regard. And if we also have the chief executive seconded to us, I also think that the technical agreement should cover the fee, the remuneration of the technical of the CEO, rather than putting additional cost on us and also asking that we pay the range that we currently pay. But going forward, which for me is the most critical aspect of our business now, is that it will be necessary that, just like we have the chairman's statement, we should make the CEO who has run the business for 365 days to also put a report on the annual account. And the reason that this is important is that we can also hold him to his words. But the way it is now, yes, you may say he's relatively new on the board, but let him make a report as to what he meant. Also will think that in this account, there's additional information that I will be requiring concerning Continental Blue. Yes, what we have there is a small size, but if you don't understand what the small sizes are doing, it then becomes difficult to understand the aggregate, even from the small size. So, interestingly, I find the situation where the loss they posted a loss in the year under review, though the revenue went up. So what is it exactly that we want to do with that business in Ghana? Because that itself will give a better understanding as to the future of the company. On a closing note, yes, I know globally there's a huge shift towards independent directorship dominating the board. But I don't think what we have here in terms of the structure of the board is understanding the sentiment and the sensibility of the minority shareholders. I don't think so. Yes, you are outgoing, but one thing that must be brought on the table next year by special grace of God is that minorities must be on this board. We must have a representative who represents the minority interest. Otherwise, some of us will ensure that we don't vote anybody who is coming for re-election next year. Yes, I know you could call for a poll, but I don't think that is the route that you want to go Because if the foreign partners year in, year out to send in their own representative, and they don't think that the number that makes the whole is not important, then it becomes a challenge for me. So I'll be hoping that going forward, that will be a major, major area that we will resolve next year, not the year after, next year. Because given some of the things that happened even before the sale of South African component, you begin to understand as to why we need to do that. On a closing note, I also have read the chairman's statement on page 15 in particular that talked about the expansion. Yes, I know that running a business is like a relay. You finish lane 1, and then you hand over the baton to the man who runs lane 2. But I wish that the incoming chairman was here, because that is one major thing that we must take on head on. And the reason that is so is that a couple of years back, even before you joined the board even while you are on the board as a director, Lafarge was the biggest cement producer in Nigeria. I'm sure if Nigerian cement company was running, probably will even be number 4 now, because they probably will also tell us that they are doing more business than we are doing. Yes, I know that life is not a constant, but it becomes a challenge when you have all the opportunities and resources to maintain a particular position and you let it go. So I will be hoping that one of the things that the new CEO and his team will be bringing on the table is what is going to be our next line of expansion going forward. An expansion that will also be complemented with good funding mix. And I think that, again, we'll be speaking to the new CFO, because I expect that whatever expansion that we'll be having will be at a cost that will be highly, highly competitive, so we can also have higher margin, and in higher margin we can also pay better dividends to the Nigerian investor. So it's on that note I want to hope that once we also leave here, you look at the outstanding debts that we're carrying, given the fact that cost of funding globally now is on the decline. We'll also look at the possibility of making sure that we get some benefits to the company in terms of paying lower cost. So it's on that note that I want to thank the outgoing chairman for his contribution, and also thank the other directors who have served us. But I don't think there has been a disconnect yet. I don't know what word to use, but I'm sure there is no scissors in the umbilical cord between the relationship between those of you who are outgoing and gone and the company, and I'm hoping and wishing that you continue to put your knowledge and time available for the growth and the betterment of the company. Once again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Nana. I think we've had a fair amount of questions. We also have 1 or 2 questions that have been, sent interactively. I will try to respond to as many of these questions as possible. I will also call on our Managing Director to assist me in providing responses to a number of these questions. Let me, firstly, start by, saying that even though Khaled has, joined us from Iraq, he's actually Egyptian. I believe that, there are many, things, in that market, that are similar to, where we are in terms of our development life cycle and many common characteristics. But in the few months that he's spent here, I think it's already apparent to us that both in Lafarge Wholesame's, selection of him and the board's appointment of him, that we have made a very, very solid decision.
You have unveiled yourself. Even money
Sonny, I will come back to you. Let me perhaps start with Visi Bakari, and let me thank you for the questions and the comments. Let me thank you most especially for your warm wishes as I leave this board. I'll leave the bank gas question to be answered by Khaled later on, but what I would like to say is that we have made very substantial progress in respect of that issue, which we have always considered as one of the risks around our business, and he'll provide some clarity on that. I think one of the highlights of the last 12 months was really taking the decision and seeing it through to get out of Lafarge South Africa, and we're now beginning to see the benefits of that. That market had been quite difficult. We didn't have a strong enough position in that market really to be able to impact the direction of the market, and sometimes there is wisdom in understanding where you are, and taking an honorable retreat, and we've done so. And the impact on our balance sheet is quite significant. Firstly, that for the first time in more than 7 years, we have no foreign currency borrowings as a company. I think given the events of the last few months around currency, that is something that for all of us we're thankful for. More importantly, we've also brought the company's leverage down, from a height of almost $1.1 billion 4 years ago to less than $90 million today, and the cash position, continues to be very, very strong. Ashaka Cement, in spite of the age of the plant there, continues to do well. And in fairness, while we have the legacy issues that we have to deal with an aging plant, I must also place on record that many of you are aware that we have some work going on at that plant in two key areas. One, around delivering an independent power plant, which will have a very substantial impact on our operating costs, but also more importantly around a capacity expansion, which in some instances, subject to what we see in the market, is the first phase of our ensuring that we consolidate our market position in a market that for us remains important and which we do not intend to give up in any way. I will ask Khaled perhaps to touch on the campaign and innovation expenses point, as well as on the long service award. Mr. Gbenga Idowu, thank you for your good wishes again and prayers, and most importantly, I think you touched on an issue which Sasonin was also touched on, around the need for a company of this stature and this nature to have a befitting head office. I was a member of the board, but I do not believe I had yet become chairman when we sold that property to the Lagos State government under the administration of His Excellency Babatunde Raji Fashola, at the time. And what I will say to you is that we recognize very, very clearly that a company, particularly a company in building materials, must have a head office that demonstrates what we do. I will say that this is not an issue that we have by any means relegated. There is, actively, a process, where we're looking at, the alternatives and the options. That process is moving along. I regret that, while I was a member of the board when the old head office was sold, I was not able to, announce the commencement of construction of a new head office. But I can almost certainly, be confident, that, at some point within Khaled's tenure and, within the tenure of my successor, they will have better news for you on that front. And I think that they will make you proud. What I will say to you is that it was important, first and foremost, to fix the business and fix, all of the elements that guarantee our sustainability. And then we will come to deal with this issue around the head office. Dividend policy. I think we can be very clear to you that the board does have a dividend policy. Our objective always is to ensure that we provide substantially for maintenance capex and all other necessary capex. We would typically look to finance any expansion projects on a standalone basis. Having said that, all of the shareholders of the company are desirous of a very strong bottom line, and you will find that when we are substantially profitable, it will also be reflected in our dividend distribution. One of the key things that I'm pleased about, and the technical fee was raised, is that over the last year, we've actually delivered much more alignment in the way that the technical fee is structured. And you will see that in some savings in the technical fee line from the prior year because of the way that it is now structured. It sounds like a large amount, but there is a cap, which is related to not just sales, but also ensuring that there's significant margin. And that margin is what guarantees or delivers the ability to be able to pay a dividend. And the stronger the profitability is, then the technical fee is aligned with that. So I think we have come probably for the first time in more than a decade to a really, really good place around technical fees. And I should also disclose that I will be buying more shares. No. So that suggests to you that I have some degree of confidence that hopefully I will get a dividend even when I'm not involved on the board. Talking about that, I want to say that firstly, all of the directors who went before me, including my predecessor as chairman and many of my predecessors from Lafarge Wholesale Group, have continued to be an incredible source of wisdom and an incredible source of support for me in my own time. And in the same manner, and given the same culture, almost certainly I can commit to you that I will not be far away from my successor and the management. And in many respects, this is a business that, for me, many of you may not know, has been a part of my life for around 26, 27 years, and I'm not that old. So it's very difficult for me to just walk away, completely from it. I note the point about the diversity of the board. You will see that we are a work in progress. I think one of the first key issues that we've done, and it's important to acknowledge those things that have been achieved. Firstly is to ensure that you have a board that firstly is representative of Nigerian participation much more than at any time, and that's not insignificant. I think you must always commend a multinational when they own a majority of a company, but are confident to allow there be a majority of minorities on the board. And when you look at the board, we've managed to deliver that. The second issue which we should be proud about is that we've also delivered very substantial diversity from a gender perspective. There is no company listed on the Nigerian Stock Exchange that has the extent of diversity from a gender perspective that this company has. We have nearly 40% women on the board and 4 female directors on the board. And that, again, I think is something that must be commended. Having said that, I note the points that you make. I wish that, I had a few more days or hours, to try and attack that again, but I have no doubt, that that's something that, my successor, that my successor and my colleagues on the board, as well as, working hand in hand with our largest shareholder, will address, and I have no doubt that in the same way that they've always made very, very good decisions for this company, that we will do so as well. Unclaimed dividends. We publish unclaimed dividends annually. You will notice that we've worked tremendously hard with the registrars to ensure that the numbers are coming down and coming down quite substantially. But the numbers will also be large because the company's share capital base is increasingly larger, and we are paying larger and larger dividends from a cash perspective. Having said that, we continue to work not only with the registrars but also with the CSCS, to ensure firstly that as much as possible every shareholder has their account details dedicated, and that when we pay a dividend, as will happen within an hour and a half today, it goes straight to shareholders' account. And again, on that note, I want to assure you that hopefully before you get home today, assuming that you will of course pass the resolution for the dividend, our dividends should be in our bank accounts. Let me speak to receivables. One of the realities of the marketplace is that you have competitors who are aggressively trying to gain market share, and whether you like it or not, you will have to use some degree of credit. As much as possible, we've been very measured in the way that we do that. We recognize first and foremost that we're not a bank. Secondly, we recognize that for a large period in our history, we have been a significantly levered company. So if we also have receivables out there, it's not helping our working capital management. What I can say to you is that it's been one of the big focus areas for Lolu, and it also helps that Lolu now has a CEO who is also financial, and you cannot underestimate the benefits of that. One of the key areas that Khaled will be very, very focused on is his cash flow, his collections, his receivables, and I'm pretty confident that those numbers will come down quite substantially. I note the points made about our market presence, our route to market, the availability of our product. What I will say to you is that this company is very, very minded of the opportunity that it has in the marketplace, and what was in the past is gone with the past, and you can only judge this management on the basis of the first quarter results that you have seen this year, and those results directionally tell you a story. It's not just about removing our debt. You will also notice that first and foremost, there's a top-line gain in revenues, there's a very significant gain in profitability, and even though we would expect all businesses to go through a challenging second quarter because of COVID, I can assure you that there are many, many days, and this doesn't happen in many companies, that I've been on the telephone with Khaled till the early hours of the morning, where what Khaled is focused on is ensuring that his product is moving across the country. And even in this difficult period, one of the things that you will be pleased about is that you would expect the numbers to come down, but we will not be completely destroyed in this second quarter. And I think that's commendable. And, we will continue to focus on pushing to dealing with the issues, around our route to market. A lot of work was done in the last 6 months to 8 months. Lolu has been particularly hands-on and involved, in that process around our logistics and route to market. And we will begin to see the impacts of that once COVID is done. I think we're in a much stronger place from a logistics and supply chain management perspective than we've been at any time in our most recent history. Is there anything that I've not touched on? Yes, I should speak to a couple of final issues. Nona, well, thank you very much again, for your very kind wishes, and Sasoni also. The points around scraps, I do think that you will understand that we have a couple of fairly old plants with a fair amount of spare parts and supplies, and we like to take a prudent approach where we look at our stocks and ensure that on a regular basis we're dealing with those issues. I think one of the great opportunities we will have is how we streamline our strategy in this respect, and how from moving to one particular equipment supplier and provider to a large extent, we can also minimize the incidences of this. You'll see that the company we have today is 3-4 different companies brought together with plants that may have been built by different providers, and these issues are not unlikely. But one of the benefits going forward hopefully is that these are a much more manageable issue for us. Yes, I note your point about benefits for other foreign directors. What I suspect would have happened there is either that these foreign directors have had to make at some point either some trips or some other, or have been involved in some other things outside of their business as usual, and that is the reason why those expenses are being picked up. What you will notice is that they're not very significant in the scale of board expenses. I think what you will also note is that overall, our board expenses in this company, are quite insignificant, compared to board expenses, for many companies of this size. And in many respects, I always commend all of my, colleagues on the board, both Nigerian and non-Nigerian, because they consider it an honor and a privilege to serve you. I don't think that any one of them does it, for the remuneration. The CEO report, again, I note your point. I think you will understand the very peculiar circumstances we had, where, Khaled only joined in February, after that year was completed, and by which time, most of, what was in this annual report, had been delivered. And to some extent, he, was not here all of last year, and therefore it would be difficult, to ask him to write a report, particularly also because we've had a change, in CFO as well, for a period that they were not responsible for. But clearly, for us, we note, that, that is best practice, and that is something that we, we always deliver and aspire to. And I'm certain that in your 2020 financial statements, you will have a very comprehensive, report in there from our CEO. Expansion. I think we always are looking tactically at our capacity. We're always looking, tactically, firstly, at how we can optimize and utilize existing capacities that we have in place. but we also recognize the opportunity to make new investments. And what I will say to you is that the only thing that enables you make new investments is to have a strong balance sheet. The foundation is there, the runway is there. Clearly it's a difficult time, all of us being uncertain of when, the current, global health crisis we're all facing will come to an end. But I will say to you that we're actively as a board, and with the full cooperation of our largest shareholder, always looking at what we can do about incremental capacity. We intend to remain Nigeria's second largest cement producer, and in other respects, we will still be Nigeria's best cement producer, not only in the quality of our products, but in the diversity and the range of products that we produce. And I like to say that very confidently. Other companies in Nigeria may be good at cement, but we are good at much more than cement. And that's really the incredible opportunity that this great company has. And we certainly don't intend to give up our strong position in the marketplace. And over the next few months, you will see a couple of new products that we're introducing in the marketplace where, the benefits of all of the intellectual property that Lafarge, Holcim as a group has, which, all of our competitors do not have access to, will begin to be reflected in, new things we bring through into the marketplace. I think, ladies and gentlemen, I've dealt with, as many of those as I could. Let me,
You've done very well. Executive Director.
Thank you, sir. Let me ask the real executive directors to do their work.
Let us progress.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, everybody. I mean, it's been a pleasure and a great honor to be with you today. As rightly said, Mr. Chairman, I might not have the full in-depth to get into the 2019 numbers. However, I would really take more the opportunity is to give more of a future look and more capitalizing on the good results that we have delivered last year and how we need to look forward because history is history. However, the history for 19 was good enough to be able to build on and capitalize on the good results that we have delivered. One of the two key points that has been coming up is the gas in bank, and we are in heavy negotiations with the suppliers. We have our own criteria to carry on the agreement, and based on this criteria, this is how we need to progress with them. I think we are progressed quite positively in the last couple of months, and the target at the end of the day that by the time we finalize this agreement in the coming few months, the auditors will not have any concerns about the gas in bank. So that's in the big picture, the outcome of the negotiations that we are trying to run. On the head office, I fully agree, maybe the previous years, despite the fact that everybody acknowledged the need for the headquarters, but I think we had more of the business challenges on the ground that might have taken more priority. This year, we are taking the topic on board. It's been discussed seriously, and hopefully in the near future, we will have something more articulated to communicate to everybody. The other point, which is on the marketing, on the growth, I fully agree with the comment. We are looking fully at the marketing strategy, whether from footprint, whether from logistics, whether from route to market, expanding our vehicles and fleet. But more importantly for me is the deserved market share. I think we need to articulate what we mean by top line, what we mean by growth. I think what we mean by that is our deserved market share. And the intention here that whatever strategy we are putting in place is to bring Lafarge Africa to their deserved market share back again. So it's not more on the competition side, but I think on the layout, the industrial capacity that we have, unleashing our potential in the market, aiming to recover our deserved market share in Nigeria. Development, again, CapEx has been already allocated to Ashaka for the debottlenecking. We already started the groundwork. However, with the COVID-19, we couldn't get the suppliers from abroad. Once the COVID-19 flight restrictions are done, we are resuming the project. So the debottlenecking is done, it's in place, the LC has been opened, and it's the intention to unleash the potential of Ashaka. The same for the captive power plant, the same thing. The only delay is because of the flight restrictions, but it's already in place, it's already committed. We are looking at the same thing for Evicoro, because I think we still have to do a lot in unleashing the potential, potentially in Ogun State and down to Lagos, but this is again one of the things that we are putting in place. Probably I have covered majorly the key strategies. We are very positive about the future, and we are very positive about repositioning Lafarge Africa to where it deserves. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Khaled. I believe we've now dealt questions quite extensively. With your permission, I would like to move on to the next item on our agenda. I hereby lay the audited financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2019, the reports of the directors and the auditors, and audit committee reports thereon before the meeting for adoption. Thank you. I will now invite I believe our registrars have already provided everyone with brief instructions on how to use this voting pad. Ladies and gentlemen, item 2 on our agenda, and one that I believe interests all of us as shareholders, is the declaration of dividend of ₦1 per share, amounting to the sum of 16,795,000,795. Sorry, let me start that again. 16,107,795,721 naira, payable in respect of the financial year ended 31st December 2019. The dividend proposed is payable from the Pioneer Reserve and therefore not subject to deduction of withholding tax if approved by shareholders, and is payable today, 3rd of June 2020, to all shareholders whose names appear on the register of members as at the close of business on the 30th of April 2020. I hereby move that a dividend of ₦1 per ordinary share, amounting to 16,107,795,721 naira, only be payable in respect of the year 2019. Would someone please second that motion? Sir Sonny Nwosu. I do. I hereby put the motion before members for voting, and the poll is up. And I think I should also vote for getting a dividend.
Can I take that, Chairman?
Yes, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Please, can we commence the voting process for the resolution to declare a dividend recommended by the Board of Directors of the company in respect of the financial year ended 31st December 2019. The polling will show up on the screen, and we can start the polling now, Chairman.
Thank you.
Please remember to press the OK button after you select your voting pattern. The voting process has ended. With your permission, Chairman, we will present the result.
Yes, please.
For the second resolution to declare a dividend recommended by the Board of Directors of the company in respect of the financial year ended 31st December 2019, we have a total of 100% of total vote casted in favor of the resolution for 14,555,416,652 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. I hereby declare the motion unanimously carried. After the last annual general meeting, the directors of this company, in exercise of the powers conferred on them by Article 102 of the Articles of Association, appointed 5 directors on the board. The 5 directors are Marco Likata, Non-Executive Director, Khaled El Dokani, Managing Director, Mr. Benga Oyebode, MFR, Independent Non-Executive Director, Mr. Olivier Guiton, Non-Executive Director, and Mr. Lolu Alade Akinyemi, Executive Director of Finance. In accordance with Article 102, the new directors being eligible for election now offer themselves for election. Election of these directors will be taken one after the other. I hereby move that Mr. Marco Likata be and is hereby elected a director of the company. Would a shareholder please rise and second the motion? Mr. Benga Idowu, thank you. We may now put the motion before the meeting for voting.
Thank you, Chairman. For the resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Marco Likata as the non-executive director, please, we can commence the polling process. It's for 20 seconds. Please remember to press the enter key to send in your votes. The voting process has ended.
Please proceed to give us the results.
Thank you, Chairman. For resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Marco Likata as the non-executive director, we have a total of 99.45% of total vote casted in favor of the resolution for 14,475,917,808 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc in favor of that resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar.
Okay. For the same resolution, we have 0.55% voted against the resolution for 79,498,844 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. I hereby declare that the motion has been duly carried and Mr. Marco Likata is hereby elected a director of the company. I hereby move that Mr. Khaled El Dokani be and is hereby elected a director of the company. Would a shareholder please rise and second the motion? Mrs. Bisi Bakari, thank you. I now put the motion before the meeting for voting. Mr. Registrar.
Thank you, Chairman. For the resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Khaled El Dokani as the Executive Director, the voting process commences now. The voting process has ended.
Thank you. Please give us the results.
For the resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Khalid El Dokani as an Executive Director, we have a total of 100% of total vote casted in favor of the resolution for 14,555,418,700 units of Lafarge Africa Plc in favor of that resolution. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. I hereby declare that the motion has been unanimously carried and Mr. Khaled El Dokani is hereby elected a director of the company. I hereby move that Mr. Benga Oyebode, MFR, be and is hereby elected a director of the company. Would a shareholder please rise and second the motion? Mrs. Bisi Bakari, thank you very much. I hereby place the motion before the meeting for voting.
For the resolution to appoint Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, MFR, as an independent non-executive director, please, you can commence the voting. The voting process has ended.
Please proceed to give us the results.
For the resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, MFR, as an independent non-executive director, we have a total of 99.99% of total vote casted in favor of the resolution, and we have 788,972 units of shares of 0.01% of total vote casted abstaining from the resolution. Thank you, Chairman.
I hereby declare the motion carried, and Mr. Gbenga Oyebode, MFR, is hereby elected a director of the company. I hereby move that Mr. Olivier Guiton be and is hereby elected a director of the company. Would a shareholder please rise and second the motion? Mr. Sonny Nwosu, thank you very much. I hereby place the motion before members for voting.
For the resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Oliver Guiton as a non-executive director, please, you can commence the vote. The voting process has ended.
Please provide us the results.
For the resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Olivier Guiton as the non-executive director, we have a total of 99.65% of total vote casted in favor of the resolution for 14,503,437,722 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc. We also have 0.35% of total vote casted against the resolution, representing 51,192,006 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. I hereby declare the motion carried, and Mr. Olivier Guiton is hereby elected a director of the company. I hereby move that Mr. Lolu Alade Akinyemi be and is hereby elected a director of the company. I ask a shareholder to please rise and second the motion. Thank you very much, Mr. Gbenga Idowu. I hereby place the motion before members for voting. Mr. Registrar.
For the resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Lolu Alade Akinyemi as an executive director, we can commence the voting process. The voting process has ended.
Please provide us a report of the poll, Mr. Registrar.
For the resolution to approve the appointment of Mr. Lolu Alade Akinyemi as an executive director, we have a total of 99.65% of total votes casted in favor of this resolution, representing 14,503,789,962 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc in favor of that resolution. We also have 0.35% of total votes casted against the resolution, representing 51,626,690 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. I hereby declare the motion carried, and Mr. Lolu Alade Akinyemi is hereby elected the director of the company. The next business on our agenda is the re-election of directors retiring by rotation in accordance with Articles 97 to 99 of the Articles of Association of the company. 2 directors now seek re-election under this provision, and they are Mr. Grant Earnshaw and Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy. Re-election of the directors retiring by rotation will be taken one after the other. I hereby move that Mr. Grant Earnshaw be and is hereby re-elected as a director of the company. Would a shareholder please rise and second the motion? Thank you, Sir Sonny Nwosu. I now place the motion before members for voting.
Thank you, Chairman. For the resolution to re-elect Mr. Grant Earnshaw as a non-executive director who been eligible now for himself for re-election, we can commence the voting process. The voting process has ended.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar.
For the resolution to re-elect Mr. Grant Earnshaw as a non-executive director, we have a total of 99.45% of total vote casted in favor of that resolution, representing 14,475,128,836 units of Lafarge Africa Plc. We also have 0.55% of total vote casted against the resolution, for 79,498,844 units of Lafarge Africa Plc. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. I hereby declare the motion carried, and Mr. Grant Earnshaw is hereby re-elected a director of the company. I hereby move that Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy be and is hereby elected as a director of the company. Would a shareholder please rise and second the motion? Thank you, Mr. Nona. I hereby put the motion before the meeting for voting.
For the resolution to re-elect Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy as a non-executive director, please we can commence the voting process. The voting process has ended.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar. Please provide us the results.
For the resolution to re-elect Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy as a non-executive director, we have a total of 99.45% of total vote casted in favor of the resolution, for 14,475,917,808 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc. We also have 0.55% of total vote casted against the resolution, for 79,498,844 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc.
Thank you, Mr. Registrar, for that. I hereby declare the motion carried, and Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy is hereby re-elected the director of the company. Thank you very much. We now come to item 5 on our agenda, which concerns authorizing the directors to fix remuneration of the external auditors. Section 36, Section 361, Section 1, subsection B of the Companies and Allied Matters Act requires that the remuneration of the external auditor shall be fixed by the company at a general meeting or in such manner as the company in general meeting may determine. I therefore move that the directors be and are hereby authorized to fix the remuneration of the external auditors for the year ending 31st December 2020. Would somebody please rise and second this motion? Thank you, Sir Sonny Nwosu. I hereby put the motion before members for voting.
For the resolution to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors, voting process has commenced. The voting process has ended.
Thank you. Please provide us the results.
For the resolution to authorize the directors to fix the remuneration of the external auditors, we have 100% of total vote casted in favor of the resolution, representing 14,554,629,708 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc.
Thank you very much, Mr. Registrars. Clearly, all of our stakeholders believe that our auditors are doing an excellent job. I hereby declare that the motion is duly carried and that the directors be unanimously carried and that our directors be and are hereby authorized to fix the remuneration of the external auditors for the year ended 31st December 2020.
We also know that you like it, that's why
I knew that I spoke too soon. Thank you, Nona. The next item on our agenda is the election of audit committee members. By the provisions of the Companies and Allied Matters Act, the audit committee is composed of 6 members made up of equal numbers of representatives of shareholders and the board of directors. Your board of directors have resolved to appoint as their representatives on the audit committee the following directors: Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy, Mrs. Oyinkon Adewale, and Mr. Marco Likata. The company secretary has received 3 nominations for the 3 seats to represent shareholders on the audit committee. I now call on the company secretary to read the names of the nominees.
Sorry, observation. I am not sure. Yes, I know that you have the right to appoint the directors representative of the audit committee. But if you are bringing Mr. Adewale, who has not been approved by the shareholders, I have a problem.
I need to actually, point of order, correct that. The audit committee starts serving from after this general meeting. And she has been appointed as a director from after this general meeting. So that is entirely correct. Yeah? The audit committee is not for anything historical. In another few hours, I will cease to be a member of this board, and she's a member of this board. So that is completely correct. Yeah? So I note your point, but I think the position is correct in fact and correct in law and procedure. Thank you.
No, I want to be convinced.
No, it's
No, the reason I'm saying this
yes.
is that yes, I heard you at the beginning of this meeting that we had a board meeting pre this meeting, and then you have accepted to approve. Okay.
So our date of appointment is June 4th, 2020.
June 4th,
2020. The date of appointment of this audit committee is June 4th, 2020. The current audit committee sits till the end of today. So that is entirely correct. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Thank you, sir. So the names of the audit nominations we received are Mr. Adebayo Adeleke, Mr. Adejunwon. Yes, he is. And he's representing the other two.
Please be seated. Absolutely.
Mr. Adejunwon Ademola Timothy and Mr. Adekombi Ademola David. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Madam Company Secretary. Given that only 3 nominations were received to fill 3 vacancies that we have, and the subsequent validation of all of the nominees by the company's registrars as valid shareholders, there is no need for an election. I hereby move the motion that Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy, Mrs. Oyinkon Adewale, Mr. Marco Likata, Mr. Adebayo Adeleke, Mr. Adejunwon Ademola Timothy, and Mr. Adekombi Ademola David be and are hereby elected audit committee members of the company until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting. Would somebody please rise and second that motion? Thank you, Mrs. Bisi Bakari. Those in favor? Those against? I hereby declare that the motion is unanimously carried and Mrs. Karen Uzan Mercy, Mrs. Oyinkon Adewale, Mr. Marco Likata, Mr. Adebayo Adeleke, Mr. Adejunwon Ademola, Mr. Adekombi Ademola are hereby duly elected audit committee members of the company until the conclusion of the next annual general meeting. Agenda item number 7. No.
That's the end of the meeting.
Item.
How do you classify item 7?
Items.
Is it a special business or what?
No, it's ordinary business.
It's not known by any agenda within this period.
It's, please allow me read it, and then allow me, sir. But it's very important. Otherwise, you see, without this, the board of your company cannot function for the next few months. That's really what this resolution is about. So we've checked it with all regulators. Yes, we have. Yeah, and
CAC allows it.
Correct. It is correct. Yes, sir. Without that, we wouldn't bring it here. I hereby move that the directors of the company be and are hereby authorized to approve, sign, and/or execute other documents as may be necessary to give effect to the above resolutions, including without limitation complying with the directives of any regulatory authority and all acts carried out, steps taken, and documents executed or to be executed by the directors of the company in connection with the above resolutions, be and are hereby approved and or ratified, as the case may be, to give effect to these resolutions and, where applicable, to file and or register the same with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Yes, please. Yes.
You want me to use the mic?
By all means. No, by all means.
Mr. Chairman, I want you to clarify this as a new approved resolution, because previously, on all the AGMs we have been having, in fact, especially on Lafarge, we have never brought in this kind of agenda. Despite COVID, we have not brought in. We allow for the agenda, and directors will go back to do their work. So I do not know how this was imported into agenda. So I need a very clear explanation. Is it COVID-19 importation or what?
Thank you, Sir Sonny-Nwosu, and thank you for asking that question. In fact, if you do recall, it was on last year's agenda, and it was a resolution on, yes, no, ordinary resolution. Yeah, it's not special. Yeah, and not at all. And it's entirely in order. Yeah, I think, one thing we can always assure you of is that, if nothing else, firstly, the company and your board is always under extremely good advice. And some of us will not go on a regulatory excursion or stick our necks out if we're not sure of what we're doing. Would somebody please rise and second the motion? Thank you very much, Mr. Gbenga Idowu. I hereby put the motion before members for voting.
For Resolution 7, the directors are hereby authorized to approve, sign, and or execute the documents to give effect to the above resolutions. Please, we can commence the polling process. The voting process has ended.
Please provide us the...
For the 7th resolution, the directors are hereby authorized to approve, sign, and or execute other documents to give effect to the above resolutions. We have a total of 100% of total vote casted in favor of the resolution for 14,555,418,700 units of shares of Lafarge Africa Plc voted in favor of the resolution.
Thank you very much, Mr. Registrar. I hereby declare the motion unanimously carried, that the directors of the company be and are hereby authorized to approve, sign, and or execute other documents as may be necessary to give effect to the above resolutions, including without limitation complying with the directives of any regulatory authority, and all acts carried out, steps taken, and documents executed or to be executed by the directors of the company in connection with the above resolutions be and are hereby approved and or ratified, as the case may be, to give effect to these resolutions, and where applicable, to file and/or register same with the Corporate Affairs Commission. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, yes, ma'am.
I asked a question on innovations and campaign expenses, and you said you promised that CFO will give clarification on that. I think before we close the meeting, you should give a response to that.
Thank you.
Okay, the expense on innovation and marketing, sorry. It's basically linked to our investment on Superset launch last year in 2019, because we revamped the brand, we launched Superset, and this contributed to part of our volume growth last year. I hope this clarifies. Thank you.
See, if this is what you launch, you see what you advertise here, part of it is broken.
So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, fellow shareholders, it's been an honor to serve you as a director and chairman, and I wish to appreciate first and foremost the management and staff who have been fundamental to the delivery of the improved results before us today. I thank all of our people across the country, from Famosing in Cross River State to Ashaka, to Ewekoro and Shagamu, and even the few members of staff we have in One in Port Harcourt, and all of the staff in our head office in Lagos, for your continued commitment in what continues to be a challenging environment. I want to thank all of the key partners that we work with, from our distributors, customers, transporters, suppliers, bankers, our bondholders, and all of the other service providers for their continued support. Let me thank you, my fellow shareholders, for your support and collaboration as we have all worked together to build a stronger company. Our largest shareholder, Lafarge Wholesale, continued to support and provide substantial commercial and technical support for our operations. And I also want to acknowledge the support we've received from our founding shareholder, Odua Investments, who remains supportive of the company. In over 15 years that I served on the board, I've been privileged to work alongside many colleagues whose contributions to the board helped shape the direction of our company, creating growth and value for our shareholders. I wish to place on record my gratitude to all of them, and also several exceptional members of senior management, and I recall all of the company secretaries that I've worked with in that time. I must also thank my current colleagues on the board and our company secretary, Adeumi, for your selfless service, and it has been a pleasure leading and working with such a high-performance and effective board. Your insights have guided the company through a critical period. We now have a business that is well prepared for a challenging economic environment, and we see many opportunities to grow further and accelerate on our objectives. I congratulate the incoming chairman, Prince Adefioye, who will now lead our company into the next phase, and I pray for a successful tenure for him. I ask all of our shareholders and stakeholders to please give him your support and keep him in your prayers. If I concluded this and I didn't thank my family, I would be remiss. Distinguished shareholders, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board, members of the press, I wish the company great success as it navigates the future. With this, we have come to the end of the business of this meeting. On behalf of the board and management of your company, I thank each and every one of you, both present in the room as well as present virtually, for your understanding, your contributions, suggestions, and the keen interest that you've demonstrated in the affairs of your company. Once again, to God be the glory for the privilege to lead our board over the last 5 years, I thank you, and God bless you all and keep you safe in this season.
For,
I hereby
he is a jolly
closed.
good fellow, for he is a jolly good fellow, for he is a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us, and so say all of us. And so say all of us, for he is a jolly good fellow, for he is a jolly good fellow, for he is a jolly good fellow. And so say all of us. Hip, hip, hip! Hip, hip, hip!
Thank you all very much, and God bless you. The national anthem.
The unprecedented outbreak of COVID-19 has resulted in difficult times for millions of people across the world. Apart from those infected and their loved ones, perhaps those impacted the most are the indigenous people within our local communities. The recent turn of events has brought most local businesses to a halt. 70% of Nigerians are in the informal sector, and many families depend on their breadwinners, who are petty traders, drivers, market men and women, among other professions. The impact of the spread of COVID-19 and its inherent circumstances has been challenging for most families in Nigeria.
My name is Lafarge Africa Plc. I'm a small business owner based in Lagos, Oshodi to be precise. Since the start of the lockdown, as a result of COVID-19, my business has been shut down, which has affected me and my family greatly. With this relief material that Lafarge has given us today, it will go a long way as we hope for the best. I really want to thank Lafarge Company. I appreciate you guys for this gift. This is awesome.
As the Nigerian government works assiduously towards cushioning the effect of COVID-19 on the livelihoods of people, Lafarge Africa is supporting the government's effort through an initiative tagged Lafarge Africa Community Relief Program. In the first phase of the initiative, Lafarge Africa converted its facility to isolation centers in Ashaka and provided infrastructure support such as generators, ambulances, and critical personal protective equipment (PPE) for health professionals, reaching over 20,000 people in its host communities. More recently, in the second phase of the intervention, Lafarge Africa provided food relief materials for 10,000 families, impacting an estimated 60,000 people within its host communities.
This palliative really is to help them be able to feed their household, educate them as well on the pandemic and how to keep themselves safe, washing their hands, adhering to social distancing, and also feeding their bodies as well, because we must keep their immune system up so that they don't fall vulnerable to this pandemic.
The idea is to be impactful during the crisis. So part of what we have done, and as you can see here today, is engaging at the grassroots levels. It's incredibly important to us, and that is why you see us here. We've been across the whole nation in terms of the states in where we operate, making sure that we're actually listening to the needs, working in partnership with the federal directives in terms of precautionary measures. As you can see, our PPEs. So we're giving out testing kits, obviously bags of food, palliatives to ameliorate the hardship of the lockdown, because everyone is fully compliant, and to also make sure that we're also ensuring that we're doing our bit as a good corporate citizen.
In total, Lafarge Africa, overall Nigeria, we are spending $500 million towards these activities.
This is our response to the pandemic we are in, the COVID-19. Unfortunately, the world has found itself in this situation, and not just the world, Nigeria and Gambia and Trinidad local government in particular are affected by this scourge. So we sat down as a group of people to say, what are we going to do to really reduce the impact of this COVID-19 within our communities. And we came out with the idea of distributing this palliative we are seeing around.
We are actually a caring and a health and safety conscious organization. And so in line with our objectives, we have decided to provide palliatives to citizens.
To reach out to them with food items and basic personal groceries that will help them maintain personal hygiene, like soap and sanitizers. We've worked with the local government councils and the LCDAs to ensure that these relief materials get to the grassroots, the people who actually need them.
I must say thank you to Lafarge Africa for what they're doing. They're complementing the efforts of the state government in giving palliatives to our people in this very difficult period.
Lafarge, a willing partner to Cross River State Government, has once again stepped up to the plate and is providing these measures to enable the community sit out this pandemic period, and so that we can emerge stronger and better.
I must mention that it's a great idea and highly welcome here in Alimosho local government.
I want to extend my greeting, my appreciation to Lafarge Cement for such a succor that they brought to my people.
It's a great relief to us. Nobody has done this for us. No company has done this for us. So Lafarge has scored another first. So we are grateful.
Lafarge, ilé-iṣẹ́ Lafarge, kọ́lọ́ máa jẹ́ ó bàjẹ́.
The food relief program also provided an opportunity for Lafarge Africa's employee volunteers, friends of the community, to further educate the locals about COVID-19 and the best ways to protect against the spread of the virus.
Ẹjọ́
jókòó lé. Ọmọ tó bá pè ní kó fẹ́ wá kí yín, kó pè mí lórí aago yín, kó kí yín, ẹ juwọ́ sí.
A dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ torí tí ebi bá ti kúrò nínú ìṣẹ́ ti kù fẹ́rẹ́fẹ́.
Ọwọ́ wọn á máa gòkè sí, ọwọ́ wọn á máa ròkè. Lafarge cement, ọwọ́ wọn á máa ròkè, àpò wọn ò ní gbẹ o.
I'm very happy for the food relief. I thank the company, the Lafarge, for remembering people like us.
Kan tí mo ní sọ ní pé Ọlọ́run á máa ràn wọ́n lọ́wọ́, Ọlọ́run á máa bùkún wọn, Ọlọ́run á máa gbọ́ wọn sókè pẹ̀lú ògo Ọlọ́run, ilé-iṣẹ́ wọn ò dẹ̀ ní jóná pẹ̀lú ògo Ọlọ́run.
The impact on what Lafarge has done today is great.
So we appreciate it and thank you for this move.
As the fight against the spread of COVID-19 continues, everyone, every organization and individual has a role to play. In times such as this, simple acts of kindness will go a long way in making a difference. While we may not all have the resources to give to others, we can support the fight against COVID-19 by simply adhering to the health and safety standards recommended by the World Health Organization and Nigerian Center for Disease Control.
While most of us are at home trying to keep the social distancing, we should not forget our heroes at the front line, trying to save all of our lives. Big clap to all of them.
Our appreciation for our medical heroes for all the great work done.
Thank you, our heroes. Thank you.
It starts with you. Together, we can beat this.